Oh my gosh, that's the wrong one. There we go. Well, welcome, 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 welcome. Final one of this week. Final one of this weekend. Where I will break down all of the W Series race. We do not touch F1 in this, and we do not touch F2. Those are separate, but again, this is going to be fun to talk about the W Series and what happened for this race, what happened in qualifying, what happened in practice, because now this is a show where we just break everything that happened this weekend down. We won't read anything from what they said, maybe a couple of quotes I'll try and look up. Actually, I'll do that right now where we go. I'm sure we'll be able to do it. And just look up the quotes from the drivers, what they said from basically qualifying, top 3 said in qualifying, and we'll kind of go from there for the race and break down the race, every little aspect of it. And we'll have a little bit of a break, for next race. It'll be around 18 days or so. But we all know these drivers will be trying their hardest to just get ready for that. In 18 days, it'll come up pretty quickly because it's only Sunday here. And then a week later, that's going to be around 8 days. So it's already 10 days away, basically. So we'll have 1 week down, and then boom, it'll happen in 2 weeks' time when they travel to Le Castellet, aka Richard Mille. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm excited. What a race it was, but of course we'll have to drift all the way back right before we talk about the race to qualifying and to practice. Practice, not too much to really talk about from there. It was a lot of how are the drivers going to set up the race car, and what is it going to be like? Well, that was an interesting session, and it got them used to the race in a sense. At the start of the race, it was a very damp, or not race, but at the start of practice, it was a very, very damp racetrack and green racetrack because it had also rained the day before too. So all of that coming into place, it really shifted towards what are these drivers going to do? Because the forecast said rain. The forecast said rain for Saturday. It will definitely rain, and it will probably rain during their session. As we all know, rain normally happens most of the time during the morning, and they had their race around their afternoon. It was early morning for the U.S. Standard Time, around 7 a.m. for me. So I watched that race on Saturday a little bit later, and then, just did all my research that I could during yesterday, and am very prepared for today. So we talked about that. How are they going to be able to set it up for that Saturday? Having 2 sessions on Friday, having that qualifying session as well on that Friday. Now, Jamie Chadwick, I will tell you this, did an interesting thing on the free practice. Jamie Chadwick, at the start, put on wets. Saw how she could run on the wets if the track was going to be damp enough or wet enough for that. And the team said, sure. Well, she very quickly came back in pit lane, put on slicks. But that lap or two that she was able to ride around on the wet weather tires saved her first set of dries. She was able to, push a little bit harder than she had to in practice. So it was very interesting. The tactical games were out there, is what I'm trying to say for that from Jamie Chadwick. And Jamie Chadwick did a good thing. She did a very good thing of being able to do that. And she figured it out and got, topped free practice. and didn't top free practice by much. It was around 13 tenths. I know I talked about it not too long ago. I talked about it about a day or so ago. But it was so important to talk about this because it set up the weekend. It set up how tight the racing was going to be this weekend. And as I get up the times, so in FP1, Chadwick, 156.696. This was the thing. Pulling was 0.031 off, so only 3/100ths off of Jamie's time. And then Powell, and this is a highlighted name to really keep an eye on, or to remember for this whole weekend as I break it down. Pulling was a 0.031 off the time. Powell 1.0, so 1/10 off, almost 2/10 off of Chadwick. 2/10 off was Kimalainen. 5/10 off was Marta Garcia. Sixth place was 1.239 off, and that was Jessica Hawkins. 1.4 off. 1.4 off was Sarah Moore. Abby Eaton was a 1.42 off compared to a 1.403 off from Moore to Eaton. So Marta Garcia, or I take it back, Nidia Marti, 1.721 off. 1.860 off was Beitska Visser. Belen Garcia was 2 seconds off, 2.1 seconds off, almost 2.2. Volvin was 2.4, almost 2.5 seconds off. And Chloe Chambers, 13th, sitting good for the first time she had ever been there. just about 5 off as well. 2.490 to be exact, compared to a 2.487. Teresa Babakova, 2.622 off. And De Hughes was 4.030 off. Bustamante was 4.547 off. And Noda was 4.819 off. And Bruna Tomaselli, finishing last, was in practice, may I remind you, 4.883 off. And even Tomaselli had been to this track before, been to this track last year, because she was in this, she made it to the series last year, is my point. So a lot to really, look at, and a lot of drivers and teams taken into consideration. This is a perfectly green racetrack. There was no rubber laid down before these cars hit the racetrack, before all 18 drivers hit the racetrack. So therefore, a lot of them kind of came in, or not a lot, but a couple of them came in early and said, okay, let's change air pressure. Let's change a bit of the wing, a little bit of the balance of the race car, so that we are ready for that transition, so we can be ahead of the game instead of being behind and having to react instead of that, and having the track time to put in the fastest lap possible on the 30 minutes. So all those drivers really heading into the qualifying session with a different mindset, knowing, okay, different track, but we got to be ready for it. Well, brings me to qualifying. Qualifying after FP1 and FP2 happened, and all the rest of the series behind them had raced. This was the final session. It was around 7 p.m., maybe 6:30, basically around 7 p.m. local time in Silverstone at the circuit. The drivers took the grid once again, went out of pit lane once again for qualifying. This was such a key part in this weekend. Would Jamie Chadwick be able to grab pole position, or would she not be able to and be outran by Abby Pulling, Alice Powell, any of those top five that seemed like they were very close and were inches away or just a couple of mistakes away from being able to. Well, it was interesting since they had that almost wet session beforehand. They came back out, and a lot of drivers were struggling with the track limits, especially around Cops Corner. And so that corner is very technical and very fast at the same time. And so a lot of drivers were running wide. They would get times deleted. And sure enough, times kept getting deleted. And it was just, it was, I don't want to use the word degrading, but it was tough. It was tough for these drivers to get used to it. And so their confidence kind of, lowered. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Due to the fact that they had such a, not an issue, but yeah, they weren't able to keep the car on the racetrack sometimes. So they'd get those penalties. And then do you think about that, you only have 30 minutes of qualifying and you're losing laps because you can't keep the car on the racetrack. So therefore, even though you have a fast car, you start to get worried and are like, all right, I got to keep this so nice and tidy that there is no way, shape, or form I'm going to get that black and white flag from the steward saying your lap time has been deleted. A lot of that happened, and one of the people to really talk about with that was Alice Powell and Abby Pulling. Abby Pulling especially having trouble keeping it on the racetrack, so it really stunk for her. But she talked about it, and this is what she ended up saying here. So we'll get out the latest news from that. It was Jamie Chadwick completed. Oh yeah, I already had that up. Okay, so we go down to really what Abby Pulling had said. And this is because she ran off the racetrack, and this ties in perfectly with what I was saying before. I'm really frustrated as I didn't quite have the confidence on the older tires, and there was a lot of oversteer on those, which I struggled with. But I made a setup change and expected it to be resolved when I went to the new tires, which it was. I just struggled in Sector 1, and we were so quick in all the other sectors. Sector 1 was my downfall today, which is quite annoying, but you can race from third on the grid, and it's not the end of the world. I'm around Jamie Chadwick, Emma Kimmelainen, and Alice Powell, who are the three oldest and most experienced drivers here. So there are positives to take, as I've done a lot fewer races than them in these cars. So that's kind of what I wanted to get out from where I was trying to tie everything up. Was her saying, yeah, I struggled in Sector 1, but also the setup was able to come into play right at the end of Q, or right at the end of qualifying, which was big for her. And of course, we'll get into it more of what happened to Alice Powell. Alice Powell had a lap time deleted in one of her sessions to the point where she got demoted from third place down. She had a faster lap time. Well, Alice Powell came to the stewards and argued her case, and the steward said they looked at the tape again, accepted her appeal, and let her start on third. So that was a big starter for her. Real quick, looking at the chat. Hey Harm, how you doing? Hopefully you've had a fantastic Sunday. If you're still having your Sunday, hopefully your evening as well, if it's around the evening time. Yeah, we're just breaking down the whole weekend. We're about to talk about the race 2 from the WSeries, which was an absolutely crazy race in general. It had everything that you would ever want to. The F1 race was crazy as well. I might talk about that after I talk about this, but just crazy. But moving on, we talked about Abby Pulling because she started there, and then of course Emma Kimalainen from third place. And this is what they had to say before this race. It was a tough session as it was different from practice in the morning. The wind was strong and changed the driving a lot. I couldn't do all the things. I couldn't do the things I did in the practice session. Strong. Alright. That was weird. The wind was strong. I couldn't do things I did in the practice session because of the wind, but I did the most I could also. The grip level had changed, so there was a lot more grip out there. We didn't change the car from practice, so the balance changed quite a lot too. We have thinking to do about the setup of the car for tomorrow's race, as the track will evolve again if it's going to be dry, but I'm happy with it. I remember us breaking that down a lot. Exactly. A lot around there. We did break down what Emma Kimalainen had said in the last video, so if you do want to listen to that before, you can. I just wanted to make these separate to make sure that we had everything. But yeah, that's what Emma Kimalainen said. Then Jamie Chadwick, of course, being the pole sitter again from this, had said I kind of had to pull that lap out from somewhere. It's a confidence circuit, and I was always just a little bit under it. And Kimalainen put in a good lap, and I really had to lay it on the line. And after I did that, I found a bit of confidence in the car, and it felt better. I'm happy with that lap now, and now I have a bit more confidence going into tomorrow's race. I know I've got a strong group of girls behind me, so I will see what I can do. You can have a proper race here, and I think it might be wet. What will be, will be, but I'm just happy I got a bit of confidence in that session, and I can get my head down tomorrow. Yeah, no, we all knew coming into this race it would be all about the restart, or all about the start to be exact. It was going to be a key. I thought it was really going to rain buckets, especially at the start of the race, and be a soaked racetrack where they would have to start on the wets. Boy, was I wrong, because we started off and it was completely dry. Now we're talking about the race here right as they had waved the green flag. They hadn't waved the green flag. Not everybody was in line just yet. I do need to bring this up. They were in their grid spots for the formation lap, for the reconnaissance lap. And everybody took off the line except for Alice Powell. And Alice Powell did state of what happened. She said the car just stalled and would not start. And so she had to go through the complete restart change. And she talked about, as she was going and being able to pass everybody, right before the line, the last person that she was supposed to pass decided to floor it. This was a tweet. I did not find this tweet on Twitter, but I remember that she did tweet this. It might have already been a deleted tweet, but this is something that us as fans and us as even media members really didn't have the answer to, because normally the top three are the only ones that get interviewed after the race. And I know that we'll probably get more interviews as they come out from the WSeries camp, but one of those situations where it's just unfortunate. She talked about it saying, yeah, we just don't have, but just the season has just not been our year. That's kind of what the way that she put it. It's just the bad luck has come after her. And it does stink to see that from even a fan and media person's perspective. You don't want to see a driver, especially in this type of serious struggle, to the point where it's not even on them. It's kind of on the race car. It's kind of on just not things lining up for you as a driver. Line it up for this driver to be exact. So it really did stink to see that happen to her off the start. And so that's why she ended up getting a not a drive-through penalty. I take that back. It was a 10-second time penalty for that incident where she could not pass the car in time to get her spot back. And so she lined up improperly. And the FIA took into full consideration that and boom, sent her into a 10-second time penalty, ruins her race, ruins her chance of winning the race, and a chance at points as well as a podium. So the last year's race winner would not be winning this race this season. This was all before the drop of the green flag. As I say the drop of the green flag, I mean before the 5 lights came out. So 5 lights were coming on, and it was a go from everybody as they had driven into turn 1. Again, a dry track. And the biggest thing, as I had anticipated and what I'd said before, was, is Jamie Chadwick going to be able to have a perfect start? Because she doesn't have this perfect start. Guess who's right behind her that's going to pounce? And that person who was going to pounce was going to be Emma Kymäläinen. Emma Kymäläinen having that opportunity to try and get a win and to prove to everybody, or not to necessarily prove to everybody, but to say, hey, I'm right here. I'm ready for this championship fight. I'm going to be in it. I'm coming for you, Jamie Chadwick. That's basically what it was going to be, was her. She punches her ticket into the championship. Into the championship race. This is what I was saying. Where she's going to be close to it. Because we go back to when we talk about Emma Kymäläinen and how almost unlucky she's been. How, yeah, she wants to win, so she's going to be a little bit more greedy. And why that's such a big thing to say with the greediness was because, well, she was unlucky in Miami for both races. The second race, spinning out, losing grip again, and damaging Alice Powell's car. Front wing, to be exact. So that was big. But Jamie Chadwick did get off the line. Emma Kymäläinen got off the line second. And third place was going to be, at the time, Alice Powell and everybody else behind them going too wide. Heavy Pulling dropped back down to about 5th place, so it had some positions to make up for sure. With Kymäläinen involved, and Pulling actually in 4th. And that was the biggest thing, was having the fastest time. And like we said, Alice Powell going down pit road for that 10-second time penalty, so it was big there. Chadwick, Kymäläinen, Volvind, and Pulling. And Volvind was in 3rd place for a while. Volvind not necessarily coming out of nowhere, but really quiet in all those sessions, to the point where she had a very good opportunity to not only stand on the podium, but to get that 2nd place. And the car just, it was weird for Alice Powell, because I almost forgot this till watching this video right now. She stalls coming out of pit lane as well for a second there. She stalled, but then the car got going again. It was like a little, like a like one of those. I've never driven a stick shift car, but I have a feeling that if you stall it like that and it's able to go again, that's how it feels. I've had a car stop on me before, but that was just an automatic car. But this was the biggest thing. With 0 seconds, this was on the final lap. Heavy Pulling was able to get to 3rd place from Visser, and then put in a bunch of fastest laps and had the pace to try and get second, back to second again. And, well, it's so difficult to see what happened, but from the original camera angle that the WSeries and FIA and F1 put out, Abby Pulling's beside goes to the left, and it's a left-right corner right before the final part. And Emma Kymäläinen is going in to try and turn into the corner, and is going to crowd Abby Pulling. Completely a racing incident on this, and both of them make contact, and Kymäläinen spins out. and everybody, including myself, well, I made a big reaction in this, but including myself, really just thought, Kimmelheinen, again, bad luck. Was a little too aggressive there. And it didn't look like Abby Pulling had that much damage from her race car at that time, but wasn't necessarily pulling away. And I'm sure there was stuff being said on the radio saying, just give the spot back and we'll see what happens. And so sure enough, she let her by. Again, from that, it seemed like it was a fair... It was a fair try. It was a fair go at the corner. Abby Pulling, feeling frustrated, feeling like she got closed the gap. We didn't get to hear what both of them said. What Abby Pulling said to Emma Kimalainen in the room that much, because it was such a tight race like that. But yeah, Jamie Chadwick ended up picking up the race win, and that was huge for her. 6th straight win, a little bit of rain, but the crazy thing is, when the track did get damp, Jamie Chadwick looked like she sped up and it actually gained a lot more time. Yes, she ends up winning by 19.5 seconds, a little bit more than that actually, but the reason why she won by that much time was because of the incident with 2nd and 3rd with Kimalainen, with Emma Kimalainen and Abby Pulling. Abby Pulling still ended up having the fastest lap in the end of it, which is crazy. So the final tally, or not the final tally, but where everybody finished from that was Jamie Chadwick winning, Kimalainen 2nd, Abby Pulling rounding out the podium. Fabian Wolfman just missing out on the podium, did a very good job to come back to it, and was only 7/10 off of Abby Pulling in the end. Visser 5th place, and Jessica Hawkins in that position. So it was a very, very tight race in general for at least, the midfield and beyond, which is very big for that whole deal. Hawkins getting that 6th place, Abby Eaton getting the 7th, Belen Garcia 8th, and Martha Garcia 9th. Sarah Moore 10th, Bruno Tomaselli 11th, chopped her way all the way up to 11th position, doing a good job there. And Babakova, 12th place in the end of it, when all was said and done. Chloe Chambers 13th, just where she had qualified too, so very good net of 0, but a loss of 0 too, so she has to look at the positives as this every single race for her is just another step up the ladder and just to get better. We all know, most likely, not necessarily that she'll be automatically invited the next year, but she's going to try again for this, and she's going to have a lot more experience and opportunity to race. She has to go back for a year or two to F4 or even be invited to Formula Regional. That's going to be huge because the Formula Regional cars are almost identical to this W Series, and in my eyes, I think it's a little bit better, but I don't know. It's Ligier chassis, I know that for sure. And it's a Honda power engine. Now, is it Pirelli tires or not? I don't recall. That's such a big thing to really, break down and talk about. Chloe Chambers, another race. And I talked about it last year, and I'm talking about it more this year. For drivers that haven't been or have only raced really in the United States, it's very difficult when they come out here and are racing well, racing around the world, you have to adapt so quickly. And when you're behind like that, when all these drivers have raced on a track more than you have, it just, yeah, it does become, it becomes difficult to be able to, in those 30 minutes of a practice, come back and just perform unbelievably well. And my is the 13th place for Chloe Chambers. Good job there for the American. Just getting better and better every single race in my eyes. I saw some improvement. Again, in Barcelona, she DNF'd because she ran wide at the final corner, in the final lap, and ended up finishing last. So 13th place in my eyes is good for Chloe Chambers. We'll see what she says in the diary room when they probably come out with that tomorrow or another day with that. And I'll try and, make things like that. Of course, there's a whole week this week for all these different types of races. But moving on. Teresa Babakova finishing 12th place. It's good for her, too. It's another young driver, a rookie driver, finishing just outside that top 10. For the top 10, we go back to it. Marta Garcia had problems with her race car, so ended up finishing a lap down. Bustamante ended up finishing 17th. And Powell 14th. But why I just kind of brought that up was the top 10. Let me read it again for you. Sarah Moore, Marta Garcia, or Sarah Moore, Nerea Marti, Belen Garcia, Abby Eden, Jessica Hawkins, Weitska Visser, Volvind, Pulling, Kimmelainen, and Chadwick. Everybody in that top 10 has raced at least more than 1 year in the W Series. Yes, this is its third every season, officially, in real life track time. But that's such a plus. For drivers that are just missing out on top 10s, that are like Babakova, Chambers, DeHuss not necessarily just missing it, but drivers that aren't finishing in the top 10, they know, okay, we're not there just yet. But every single time that we are only so much off of the person in front of us, that's only so much off of the person in front of them, that, it's a string of race cars, we have a shot to upset the field. And a lot of these drivers, when they come back to Circuit of the Americas, it's going to be different. Chloe Chambers raced Circuit of the Americas last year in the Formula 4 U.S. Championship car. Now, when I heard that name when I was in the grandstands, I thought that was somebody else. And then looking and doing more research on this driver, on this American driver, and what this driver has been able to accomplish, I was impressed. First year, didn't do it full time last year, but was able to get a W Series ride. It's improving. And then hearing and reading some other things saying that W Series seemed like they were doing a lot of recruiting in Great Britain, means they're going to definitely be doing some recruiting in the United States. It's only a plus. It's only a plus for them to be able to do some recruiting in the U.S. They did some recruiting in Great Britain. You have to guess at every single time that the W Series makes a stop at a different circuit, they go and say, okay, now it's time for us to look at young talent in the female ranks to try and just build this up. I think we may see more than 18 drivers start on the grid next season to a whole grid of 20. 2 more cars, or maybe 22. Eventually they'll max out around 22, just so that they can give a couple of extra spots and a couple of extra drivers a chance at this. Yes, you have to go through this whole academy training thing, but everybody, I think, in a racing community knows track time is key. A driver can't improve unless they're out on the racetrack. The best practice is a race practice. Being able to be around cars, you can test all you want, but that's how you know you might have talent in the racing industry. But how you build and improve not necessarily the talent that you have, but learn this is how to avoid a wreck, this is what to do in the case of this situation and all of that, is to be in that real situation. Alice Powell had to learn hard this weekend of what the rule is. It's just a lot of little things like that that's just going to teach a lot of drivers things like this. But all in all, very good race weekend from the WSeries. A decent race. It's very difficult to have an exceptional race, especially when a driver wins by 19 seconds. But from, like I said, from the midfield and all the way up until third place, the racing was exceptional and everybody had a battle and purpose. Because at the end of the season, most likely the top 8 will be automatically invited back, except for the two academy drivers. The two academy drivers being, I believe, Juju Noda and Bustamante. Bianca Bustamante, I believe. Both of them will be invited back the next following year. I could be wrong on that, but I think that is the truth. And then we'll see, 18 drivers and who the reserve driver will be the following year. So there's just a lot to look at, a lot to look forward to in the upcoming races. Now, La Castellet, like I said, in France, is going to be 2 weeks away, 18 days until this Sunday. So we take a week from Sunday. It's 8 days gone. So it'll be around 1 week left. So I mean, just a lot still to talk about in my eyes. Marta Garcia did a good job there. Bustamante did a good job. Marta Garcia only having bad luck with her wing making contact at the start of the race, but no caution. Now it's time, that's right, now it's time to really talk. To kind of just read this article, what I meant to say. Didn't know what I wanted to say there until now. This was posted yesterday. Remember, I did take a day off and now covering it again. Jamie Chadwick claims first WSeries win on home soil at Silverstone to continue her perfect start to the season. Reigning double champion Jamie Chadwick continued her perfect start to the 2022 WSeries season by taking a 6th consecutive win in a dramatic race at Silverstone. The Briton secured a commanding lights to flag victory to extend her 100% record to 4 wins from 4 races this term, and in the process take her points tally for the year to 100. It is 153 to be exact. This is coming from me right now. It's 153 from second place. So just under a 50-point lead, which is just insane to think about from Jamie Chadwick to Abby pulling right there. And Abby pulling holding very strong with getting another podium. Jamie stood on the top step of a WSeries podium at her home race in Britain for the first time to extend her lead at the top of the championship standings to 47 points over compatriot Abby Pulling, who finished in third. Emma Kimmelainen regained second place from Abby on the final lap after the pair made contact in the closing stages. Emma's first podium finish of the season moved her up to 4th in the championship standings, 1 point and one place behind Bicycle Visser and one place ahead of Alice Powell. Alice, the winner of last year's W Series race at Silverstone, started third but finished out of the points in 14th after receiving a stop-go penalty for an infringement on the formation lap. Fabian Volven, who was runner-up to Alice 12 months ago, continued her strong record at Silverstone by finishing fourth, just ahead of Bicycle Visser. Jessica Hawkins and Abby Eaton finished 6th and 7th, respectively, to score points at their home race, while Belen Garcia, Nerea Marti, and Sarah Moore completed the top 10. Despite spots of falling despite spots of rain falling as the drivers made their way to the grid, a sellout crowd was in attendance on the Saturday of the Formula One British Grand Prix 2022 weekend. It wasn't sold out just yet, but it was a big crowd, yes. Alice, who was promoted from 5th to 3rd on the grid after qualifying when her deleted lap time for exceeding track limits was reinstated, stalled but made it off the line before the last car had passed her, allowing her to retake her starting place of 3rd. All right, Arm, hopefully you have a great evening, and hopefully you have a great day tomorrow. But yeah. But made it off the line before the last car passed her, allowing her to retake her starting place in 3rd. However, she had been out of position in 4th at the first safety car line on the formation lap, resulting in a 10-second stop-go penalty from the stewards. Jamie made a strong start from pole position, and Emma and Alice slotted behind her. Abby was slow away from 4th, allowing Fabian to take that place, having started 6th. With 4 minutes gone, Alice passed Emma on the inside at Brooklands for 2nd place before pulling into the pit lane to serve her penalty. That helped Jamie build a 4-second lead after only 2 laps of the 30-minute plus 1 lap race. Front wing and side pod damage after contact with Emily De Hughes dropped Marta Garcia to the rear of the field as she was forced into a prolonged pit stop while repairs were made to her car. Up ahead, Martha's teammate Fabian Volven was going wheel to wheel with Abby in the battle for 3rd. Abby came out on top when Fabian ran wide at Village, relegating her to 5th and promoting Bicycle Visser to 4th. At the halfway stage, Jamie led Emma by more than 5 seconds, and Abby was a further 2 seconds behind. Jessica had progressed from 10th on the grid to 6th, and Nydia had made up more places than any driver, going from 15th to 9th. The rain became more persistent as the second half of the race began, but Jamie continued to set purple sectors at the head of the field, extend her advantage to more than 6 seconds as the clock ticked below 10 minutes. With the threat of heavier rain dissipating and Jamie enjoying a comfortable advantage in front, Emma's attention turned to her mirrors, where Abby was looming large. I don't even know. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, so halfway stage, Jamie led Emma by more than 5 seconds. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's what I read. But Jamie Chadwick, what did she have to say about all of this? Abby Pulling said, first, Jamie Chadwick said this: "It feels really good to win here, and that's a monkey off my back having not won a W Series race in Britain before today. I'm super happy with that drive. I got a bit nervy with the rain at one point, but managed to maintain a good gap to the guys fighting behind me." That is funny. Jamie Chadwick. I mean, that's what she said. She didn't say girl. She said the guys fighting behind me. Uh, which was nice. I was really hungry coming into this weekend, as this is the race all the British drivers want to win. So it means a hell of a lot. So Emma Kimmelinen said, "It feels like it's my lucky charm this year to be hit and spun around. Hopefully that ends at this point. I was defending my place and there was no space to come in. I couldn't see Abby pulling, so I turned in because I was quite a lot ahead." This is going to be a debatable quote for sure. I don't know if she locked a wheel, but she attacked. It happened. And then she was showing a praying motion with both hands to say sorry when we were facing each other. Even though that all happened within a few seconds, it felt like forever. I hoped there was no damage and I could continue, and then I saw either she had an issue or she wanted to let me back past because she clearly thought it was her fault. So we could finish the race in those positions. We learned a lot this weekend, and it's a learning process. There are things we still need to look at with the car and the setup, so we're wiser for the next race, but it's good we get 2 more races quickly after this, and we can take this good feeling into those. Well, before I say anything, let's read what Abby Pulling had to say. "I'm really happy to get a podium on home soil. It feels great to do it in front of a huge crowd at Silverstone. It was the start I expected, and I struggled off the line, but I slowly progressed through and put pressure on Emma Kimmelinen at the end. I felt I had the pace throughout the whole race, and it was just a case of getting past people. Next time, I'll learn for qualifying and not make any mistakes there so I can start further up the grid. I'm looking forward to France next. I like the circuit at Paul Ricard, and it should be a great race." Paul Ricard, Le Castellet, whatever you want to call it. So Abby Pulling did not say one word about the wreck. That's what I'm more than interested in, what she had to say about it. Because again, from the camera angles, what it shows is Abby had plenty of space to make that move. But apparently, I mean, it makes me want to watch that replay back again. It's so difficult to see what So Abby again darts to the left, has plenty of room, is side by side at this angle, and then she gets spun around. Emma Kimalainen does. And the other one came very quickly, and you couldn't tell if she was side by side. So then the other one, it shows she was side by side again. But the thing was, Emma Kimalainen took so much more speed into the corner, and Abby was trying to brake, and Emma cut her off, is what it looks like. So that's a difficult thing, and it looks like maybe Abby did lock up her left rear. Or her left front, I mean. If it was her left rear, she would have been spinning. It's so difficult to say what, you know. What happened, race control, let everything go. It was a racing deal. Again, it looks like she has space. That's the thing, is what I'm trying to say. Is it looks like Abby has space on the inside to make that move. Emma to come across like that, where you're right here and you've made that move, you brake, and then Emma to come across, it kind of cut her off, and then she's the one that's going to get spun. So I don't... It's tough. It's very difficult to say. It was definitely a little bit on one side and a little bit on the other. So. Yeah, just difficult to say. Difficult to definitely say there. I'm gonna call it a racing deal. To me, it's more on Emma for coming across like that. If you want to put the blame on anybody. But in the end, it's a racing deal. I don't like her comment. That's why. It just feels too much like... Yeah, she was upset for sure. Understandably upset. Yeah, that's what Abby said. Dave Ryan, what did he have to say from it? He says, congratulations to Jamie Chadwick, who is really showing her class at the moment through her consistency. Her whole approach to the race weekend was really good, and it showed. And it was shown on track. I'm disappointed for Alice Powell, and it'll be interesting to see what she says when she gets back to the garages. That penalty deprived us of a closer race, but no complaints. Well done, Abby Pullinger and Emma Kimalainen. I'm not sure who was at fault there, but the stewards are looking into it. Here's the thing, the stewards looked into it and I don't believe had a further action. At least it's not what I've been able to find, is that there had been any differences to the end result. What can you say? It looks like a racing deal. And that's really all you can say. Yeah, besides that, not much else. We look at Twitter notifications from them. From WSeries, to be exact. Normally they release a lot more. Just very difficult to see what entirely happened, what entirely went on. 4 rounds down. So 4 rounds down, this is also what I wanted to get into, is what we see of the top championship and everybody. How far down are all the drivers? So, in P1, you have Jamie Chadwick with 100 points. Abby Pooling, P2, 53 points. Bites Kavizzer, 41 points. Finds yourself right there in P3, having that opportunity. If either of them take the win and Jamie Chadwick, for example, DNFs, it's a closer chance. P4, Emma Kimalainen, 40 points. 1 point back of Bites Kavizzer. P5, Alice Powell, 33 points. Didn't score any points, so takes a massive fall all the way down to 5th. P6, Nerea Marti, 29 points. P7, Belen Garcia, 28 points. Right there. That's both Quant Fury Racing. P8, Bobble Hat Girl, Jessica Hawkins, 26 points, 2 points back of P7, and 3 points back of Nerea Marti. So right there, having that opportunity. It's basically P6. 3 points back of P6, which is absolutely crazy to say. Fabian Volvin, P9, 14 points. P10, Sarah Moore just rounding out the top 10. 6 races to go. Again, 2 weeks from here till France, and then I believe it's 1 week break till 1 week after that until Hungary. Marta Garcia, P11, 10 points. P12, Bruno Tomaselli, 10 points. Abby Eden, 6 points, P13. Bianca Bustamante, 2 points. P14. P15, Chloe Chambers, her only point coming from Miami. P16, Lee DeHughes, 1 point. P17, Juju Noda with 0 points. And Teresa Babacoa, P18, 0 points. And that is how all of the drivers stand after 4 races into the series. So we had a doubleheader at Miami, 1 race at Barcelona, and 1 race at Silverstone. Absolutely crazy the way that all of them goes. It's going to be quiet here for a second. Well, actually, we heard what she said. Yeah, the race reaction's pretty much the same. But yeah, not too much fun. But yeah, the official one was the top 3. Abby Pooling does not get demoted from that 3rd place, as we were officially aware from the final points tally of what I just had said. So yeah, not too much else to talk about. La Castellette will start next week, and we'll do this all again next week. Not this week. This week will be a bye week for F1 and the WSeries, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more about it, which will be very fun indeed. Not to mention so much else to talk about. Very fun race week. So much fun to just break everything down, get everybody excited. They went to Lake Castellet last year. They went to Baracard last year. They went to Hungary last year, so that will be fun to do the more research, break all of that down for you all, and give my full analysis for that next week. Thank you all so much for tuning in into this podcast. Hopefully you all on YouTube enjoyed it. Hopefully you all here on Twitch enjoyed it as well. and able to break this all down for you all. It's always so much fun, and man, I have a blast doing it. Thank you all so very much for watching. See you all next time.